Okay, this is number 95, the Virgin of Guadalupe, and it is a very important piece to Mexican people and to art history. So, the context for this piece is that it tells the story of um, the Virgin Mary and or the Virgin of Guadalupe, I should say, and Juan Diego. And then the other thing to know contextually is that the Spaniards who conquered the Americas really wanted to push Catholicism on everybody. And as a result of the popularity of the Virgin of Guadalupe, that ended up happening. And then finally, the Spaniards who migrated to the New World, and who lived here and decided to stay here, not return to Europe, they were searching also for an identity that kept Catholicism, but also made it more New Worldish. And so the Virgin of Guadalupe was very acceptable to that group, the Creoles, we call them as well. So more context, this is just like our screen in the last piece of art, the screen about the siege of Belgrade, is right the influence of the Japanese art, even though Japan was closed off to the world, and probably because it was closed off to the world for 200 years, was super popular in Europe, and by extension was popular in the New Spain. So you can see here, these are two pieces of Japanese inconchado, right? Inlays of mother of pearl. And this piece in particular, right, it was requested by the Society of Jesus. And so the Japanese made this and it was taken over to Europe. And people in Mexico were very interested in, or in New Spain, were very interested in replicating these artworks as well. Thus, the form of the Virgin of Guadalupe is a rendition of that Japanese work. So if we look here at form, we have a darker skinned Mary, and likely that is, well, there is a reference in the Bible to um, uh, darker skinned Mary, and in this application, likely people in New Spain would have related more to a darker skin. Um, Also, in terms of form, we have inconchado, right? This use of mother of pearl to highlight. And definitely in this piece, the Virgin is really decked out with this mother of pearl. There are also 4 roundels here. We've seen roundels before in pendentives. We've seen them in art, and there are 4 images or story pieces that are told in each of these 4 roundels. And then the frame itself, you see the frame is a part of this piece. And in the frame, there are these biblical elements that are reproduced. So, for example, the ladder symbolizing how to get to heaven, and that Mary really is a vehicle to get into heaven. There's a ship in here too, and that would indicate, right, if you want to sail onto heaven, Mary is your path. The ship is up here. So lots of biblical references in here. More content here. We have the melding of 2 cultures, the Aztec and the Spanish. And so Mary, the Virgin Mary, is an angel is holding her up, which is sometimes represented as a half moon. And just below the angel is this symbol, which I've blown up for you. And so this is a dove, right? But interestingly, the dove is standing on a prickly pear cactus. And this reminds us of the origin story of Tenochtitlan for the Aztecs. And I want to remind you that we have seen a dove before in art at San Carlo al Quattro Fontaine. We saw a dove used as a trinity. All right, so let's look at these 4 roundels that tell us this story. Juan Diego was an Aztec man, an indigenous man who spoke Nahuatl, which is the language of the indigenous people. And here we see angels are taking Juan Diego to the Virgin Mary to talk to her, and it tells Juan Diego that he needs to go down to the bishop and ask the bishop to have a church built for the Virgin Mary on this hill where the Virgin Mary is. It's the hill of Tepeyac. So Juan Diego goes to the bishop, and the bishop was like, get real. You don't know what you're talking about. So the Virgin Mary talks to Juan Diego again, appears to him. I think this is an appearance to him in a dream, but she has a rose in her hand, and she's telling Juan Diego to go to the little area on the hill and to gather up roses. Well, it's winter. It's December. December 9th through the 12th is when this happened. And yet, miraculously, there are angels growing. There are angels, roses growing that are Spanish, Castilian roses. So she says for him to gather up the petals and to put them in here's the next scene, next roundel, gather up the petals and put them inside his cloak. And so he does that, and he walks again to the bishop, and here he is in front of the bishop, and the rose petals that he's opened up his cloak, the rose petals have fallen on the ground, and this is him right here, and the visage, the image of the Virgin Mary appears before the cloak, in the cloak, and everybody realizes this is a true miracle. So what happened then it's for a while, but by 1709 on this the hill of Tepeyac, a church is built. Our Lady of Guadalupe Church is built, and here is the modern day view of the original church. And since then, a new church has been built. You can see just the roof of it right here. And then the hill of Tepeyac was a former Aztec shrine to an earth mother deity. So we can see some real overlapping of culture, and you can see some understanding about why the Virgin Mary would be accepted into the culture of the Aztecs, right? So very Aztecly dressed people, right, appealing here to the Virgin Mary. And then I want to show you, this is New York City, children who are celebrating December 12th, right? The Virgin of Guadalupe. It's a national holiday in Mexico. And as Mexican Americans move into the United States, it's becoming more of a predominant celebration as well.